I've got a little bit of a shorter episode of Save State Plus for you this week, this time with Dean Hall. Now, if you missed it earlier, I actually had an interview with Dean Hall where he had some issues with Unity and how they are handling trying to wrangle pro licenses from his company, as they're making claims that two employees who don't work at his company are needing to buy pro licenses, and three employees who already have pro licenses have some problems that need to be addressed, or they will just turn off Unity altogether for his company. Now, you can go check out that story, but Dean gave me a few more minutes to chat with him afterwards. We had about 30 minutes total to discuss. So here's the remainder of that interview. Warning, the audio on his end was a little choppy. He was using a gaming headset mic. Dean is great, though, so let's hear what he had to say about the industry, his thoughts on gaming, and everything else we discussed. I've been following this story. I saw your tweets and your lengthy post on Reddit. It sounds like you're pushing a back against this publicly and privately. You've agreed to discuss the story today. Can you tell me why it's concerning what is happening with these licenses and what's going on?
I think so we've been using Unity for like a decade now, and I think that this just wasn't the kind of thing that a lot of developers thought about when we started using a lot of this software. Someone on the Reddit thread had actually said to me that, you're only as indie as the tools you use. And I think that's why it's very relevant. So even if this gets, say, resolved maybe very easily for us, what does this mean for the future? And that is essentially if someone can easily turn off the access for you to develop with software, you need to really trust that those decisions to turn it off are robust, that the data gathered to make decisions on that are carefully managed. If we think of the drama around YouTube copyright strikes and things like that, that is a massive issue for YouTubers. Now imagine that you've invested 5 years into a single project or more. We have Stationeers, which we've been working on for like 7 years. If someone can just turn around and just turn that off, and then the evidence they present, the first item being a employee from another company that has nothing to do for us, that really gives us a lot of pause as to whether our situation for the software to develop on is safe. So I think that's maybe the really important nuance. It's not so much whether it's easy to resolve today, but how is it going to be a year from now, 10 years from now?
Yeah, I did reach out to Unity for comment in this story because it's really strange. You have two employees who seem to have nothing to do with your company. You have three employees who do have pro licenses. And here's what I asked them. How did you determine that these particular employees are in violation when Dean Hall has a plethora of proof to the contrary? Why has it taken so long for him to receive any reply? I think he received a reply right before recording of this interview today. And prior to that, they basically said, hey, we're going to shut off your access in a few days. Unless you provide proof, proof. And then it was just sort of silence. Can you tell me about the timeline there? So make sure I have it right.
Yeah, so initially we got an email, and actually for a start we thought it was more of like a phishing email because it just seemed like a very bizarre thing. It had no evidence in it. It just said that we had to comply, and it actually got sent through to one of our email addresses that isn't really monitored. That was on the 3rd, and we were emailing, our IT manager was emailing Unity saying, hey, what is this? What's going on? Because we have an account manager and stuff like that. We finally got a reply on the 9th New Zealand time, bearing in mind that we had until the 16th, and that contained the 5 bullet point items of things that we needed to address. And as you pointed out, a number of those things all of them made no sense, and most of them were very easy. Just a quick Google search would have resolved. So, yeah. So the time frame was very tight, and I think it's easy for people to forget that this has a very profound impact. If that access was turned off, that leaves a team of people. We pay for 18 licenses for Unity. The funny thing is we don't even use close to all of them, so this has actually highlighted that we can actually cut down the amount of licenses that we have. But that's a large amount of people who then just wouldn't be able to work, and a lot of customers who expect and love that we update our products.
Yeah, it's certainly a strange one. I really wish Unity would have commented. A lot of people have posted publicly saying we'll be in touch and we'll communicate with you, but you received no update about whether you're good now or if you need to purchase additional licenses. And that amount that you're paying every year, it's no small amount. I think it's like $40,000.
Yeah, $30,000 to $40,000. It has varied a little bit up and down. We've had individual years that it's a lot. I think I did send you the invoice. I haven't posted a lot of stuff publicly, the full details, but just to keep not accidentally release details. But yeah, it's roughly been, if we average it across the 10 years, roughly about $30,000 a year that we pay in licenses for it.
So, have any other developers been encountering this? I have seen a few online. Have any reached out to you to say, hey, we're experiencing something similar?
Yeah, so a lot of people had commented on the thread saying, hey, we got this. People had various different feelings on it. I think a lot of people, and I certainly understand where this is coming from, say, yeah, I got it. I was very confused for a start. I contacted our Unity rep and it got resolved. And I understand that, and I think in this case, if we went back, particularly guns blazing, and said, hey, blah, 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 it would be okay. But my real concern is, where are we heading with this? Particularly, a lot of what happened with this just doesn't make any sense. The first line item was a very specific name for a person who, if you Google it, the first result is their website and the second is their LinkedIn. And so our account manager sent us that. It wasn't automated. Our account manager sent us that, and obviously didn't even Google or look into it at all. So if we extrapolate that as being a problem further forward, that's why I'm very concerned about it. So I think there has been plenty of developers who appear to have had this. We did reach out privately to the other business who their employees were named in our thing, and I can't say from their position, but certainly yes, there have been developers that have been able to verify who reached out and had similar things happen. But most people, like a lot of things, want to keep quite quiet about it because it's not necessarily good to go out and wade into a big crusade on this stuff. But I worry a little bit. I worry a lot about the future. And I worry also about smaller developers too. I just look at what's happened on YouTube and stuff like that, and often by the time a big YouTuber gets hit by some big copyright strike, there might have been many small channels that were taken out who just didn't have the clout to get something done about it.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear what you're saying, and it does leave one to wonder, how did they even acquire this data? Why are they highlighting employees who they probably have records for as having the pro license? Because some of the people you identify do have the pro license, and they're flagging something about them not using the pro license. It's a very strange situation. What are next steps for you? Where are you going to go from here?
So we've got the contact details for their legal counsel. We have legal counsel at our end, so we'll lay out how we see it. And then presumably we will hear something about it. I mean, technically they have said that if it's not resolved, they'll turn it off on the 16th. So I guess we'll find out what happens there.
Well, you got 4 days to sort it out, and I wish you the best.
Thanks very much.
Do you want to talk more? I know that's mainly for that story, but if you want to talk more about not Unity, I'd be down to chat.
Sure, yeah. No, yeah. Definitely. I'm a pretty open book, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
With the Reddit thread as well, I remember I was going to put a lot of effort into editing it, but I really think that a lot of these topics, it's better to have the light of day shed on them. So even when we talk with customers about our products in general, we'll often post our financial data and things like that. I'm sure you've found as a journalist direct to consumer is really the only way to survive it all now. And I think video games is going through, or starting to go through, a similar subscription apocalypse as what came for journalism, what came for movies and television, books, stuff like that. So we're trying to make that transition to going direct to consumer, educating them about the struggles we go through, the decisions we make and why. Try and use the tools that we have now to bring customers into our business a little bit. And that's scary, and that involves sometimes you going out and saying, hey, well, we're not going to do this thing, or we have to price this way. But I just don't think there's a future for middle studios, maybe even big studios, unless you're doing that direct consumer thing. So that's 50% of our revenue comes from downloadable content, and our downloadable content we make it sort of non-essential, and then really sort of push our customers, say, hey, if you like what we do, please buy the DLC. That's how we have not had to lay people off.
That's great. Yeah. What have you thought about the shift? Like Western studios, or they have budgets of 200, 300 million, grinding gear games backed by Tencent. They're saying, well, like, our game costs $50 million. You have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. They're saying the $41 million estimate is pretty close to what they spent. What is going on with the difference in Western budgets versus everywhere else in the world?
Well, I think, the vast majority of our expense is salaries. We employ very skilled people, so they deserve very good salaries. Our salaries are okay by international standards, but pretty good by New Zealand standards. We've had pretty significant wage inflation even for our own studio, and I see that as an inherently good thing because again, we hire very skilled people. We have found that particularly recently, a lot of very skilled people have come onto the market. So there's a lot of people there. So I think that just inevitably means that costs go up for studios. I think that's just a reality, particularly as things get very technical and very complicated. As you see from games, GTA 6 will be, regardless of what you think about the game or how it does or anything, it will be a technical and production marvel. It's sort of a wonder of the technical world when it comes out. Just even marshalling the sheer amount of people over that time to get it done is something pretty significant. So I think it's just sort of an inevitable thing. I think there's good parts and bad parts. I do think that game consumers aren't really cognizant of the real costs involved in making games. I think a lot of people give all the credit to Steam without realizing that Steam don't really take any risk. They have a captive audience. Someone's going on Steam to buy games, so Steam can give refunds or do whatever they want or do discounts. It doesn't cost Steam anything, but it does get passed on to a developer. So if a developer is heavily discounting their product or reducing the prices, that's great for Steam, but that might not be good for the developer, particularly if they're a very niche product. They just might simply not be getting enough money to survive.
Yeah. Pulling back the curtain here for a second, you and I actually met many, many years ago. I think you were still at Bohemia at that time, working on DayZ, right? That was very fun. I remember we brought you in. We did an interview in the studio. It was a nice time. You were great then. You're great now. How has it been moving on from Bohemia, moving on from DayZ, and creating your spiritual sequel to Kerbal Space Program and all the projects you have going on?
Yeah, I kind of knew at the time that I'd previously worked in video games. I'd been a producer and stuff like that, but I knew that I needed to. There was a lot I needed to learn, and honestly, there's just so much I've learned over the last 10 years being the CEO of RocketWerks. You just have to grow and learn a lot. And it's really hard. A lot of it's very hard stuff. Making video games is very difficult. Making multiplayer video games is extremely difficult, and that's been a big process. Actually, quite a lot of our team here in Auckland are actually ex-Grinding Gear Games. So, like with that Kitten Space Agency, our spiritual successor to KSP, we've actually been developing our own technology around that. It's been fun, but very challenging. I think being the CEO is a lot like being a platoon commander in the army. You have to make a lot of difficult decisions, And often you're having to make those difficult decisions for the first time before you're really fully prepared for them. So a lot of it is a lot of difficult learning through that stuff. Life was maybe a lot simpler and a lot more fun when I came to visit you. There's a lot more grey hair on here if I don't get the fade, and I tell you what, the light's been very kind to me here. There's a lot of wrinkles there. I'm still really good friends with my old boss, Mark Spaniel, who's actually the CEO of Bohemia. Really interesting guy, and I learned an incredible amount from him. He actually visited the studio last year, and it was just, I think he even got a little emotional. There's a lot of what I learned from Mark and working with Mark that we're able to apply here in the studio. I really feel like I don't get any money from DayZ. I get no money from Bohemia at all, but I consider them close friends. And I think there's a lot of really cool stuff they do at the studio that we've tried to bring on. So they're very sort of ride or die when it comes to a game. They will keep developing a game long after it's not, even if it's not financially successful, they will keep developing it. And that's sort of a philosophy that we've taken in the studio here.
Can you tell me more about, like, you have 2 things that are in the works right now. Why don't you tell me about each and where each of them stand currently? Yeah,
we actually have a bunch of stuff. So we have Torpedia, which is it's kind of like RimWorld, almost with a little bit of barotrauma. It's like RimWorld, but you make a submarine. And that's been something that's been works for a long time, and we've got very close to releasing it a few times, but we try and be really careful now, just with where things are at. We kind of basically got to a point with Icarus where we had to release it or we were going to run out of money, and that's just not a situation you want to be in as a studio. So now we're really trying to take our time with a lot of stuff. I do think that there's a lot of advantage to getting out early. So there was another game that I'd been working on called Art of the Rail, which is like a train tycoon game. We got very close to releasing it on Unity, and actually we decided to port it to our own technology before we went out to customers. And people get pretty frustrated about that, but I will delay a game years if we have to, just to make sure that we're happy with it and it's ready for customers to give us feedback on. I'd rather they get mad at us for delays than they get mad at us for having garbage in it. And we had a really rocky launch for Icarus, so we're just very avoidant of that. So we've got Torpedia, we've got Art of the Rail. Those are both in the works. We've got Kitten Space Agency. There's a couple of other announced things that we work on, but we tend to not tell people about it, not for marketing reasons, but because we tend to cancel stuff. If we just think it's not working, or we just think that it's not going to be fun, or we can't deliver it, we just don't have maybe the people for it, then we'll cancel it. And I think that's good and healthy. I think it's better for a studio to try something and really try sort of risky with it, and then cancel it, then release it. We are looking into what our next really big thing will be, and I think I'm not done with the PvP genre, and I'd love to look at something like DayZ again, but I really want to make sure that we've got all our technical side of things in a row first. I played Helldivers 2 and loved it, and actually I know Shams, who's the CEO of Arrowhead, very well. Really cool guy. If you ever get a chance to interview him, absolutely interview him. He's incredible. I really like how they approached Helldivers 2. They just really knew what they were doing and just delivered that experience well. So I think for me with PvP and survival, I just really want to sit down and look at, hey, what did we do right with Icarus, which is PvE survival? What did we do wrong? And then there was actually a mode we had prepared for Icarus if it really exploded that we were going to do that was PvP. But I think there's a lot of technical learning that we need to do on it. And I think a lot of people really underestimate, even game developers, what's involved with PvP particularly. You've just really got to sit down. You've got to think about the antisocial aspects. You've got to think about balance aspects. And I'm also very fascinated by asymmetric PvP, but that requires just whole levels of other understanding. I play a lot of Foxhole. Also very cool devs, if you ever get a chance to interview them.
I'll keep that in mind. Absolutely. That's really, really cool to hear.
I want to ask you a question, though.
Yeah, go for
it. What are the games that you're just hooked on at the moment that you keep coming back to?
Yeah, so honestly, when I was waiting for you to sign on for the evening, I was like, I kind of want to play more Claire Obscure. I'm like,
awesome.
Yeah, cool. So I'm really enjoying that right now. I just finished Doom, The Dark Ages. I actually really like Doom. Really missed Mick Gordon's music because he really interwove it with the overall production. And I think December, the last game I really got hooked on was Path of Exile 2, actually. Played a mercenary, took that all the way to endgame, and really, really had a good time there. Throwing it back to you, though, I'm curious, I worked in media for years. I'm independent now. How do you feel about the media landscape and the way things have been going? And do you think, what's going on there? Is it an evolution? Is it a change?
I think it's a very big cautionary tale for the video game industry in general. Very occasionally I do every couple of months I join a radio show here in New Zealand, mostly just to keep my interview skills practiced. And I was talking with them just about the change in the media landscape as well. I'm not in media, but I consume it, and I see what's happened with what I call the subscription apocalypse. We're seeing it in video games, and we've seen a sort of race to the bottom with discounts and stuff like that have definitely been good for the consumer, but they can sometimes end up being not good for the consumer in the long term. And I think that's what we're seeing with the media landscape in general. And as a healthy game developer, we need critical journalism. We need consumers looking into what we're doing. Even if you really trust someone like me, I won't run RocketWerks forever. Someone else will take over. So it's super important at all levels, including if you're an organization like Unity or something. You want a thriving, careful media, and that can be a pain sometimes when they negatively review a game or whatever. But it's part of it, and I think it's very important. So I think that it's really important that independent media gets supported, and that usually means people getting subscriptions and going direct to the media. So it's something I'm quite passionate about, which is why I do try and do what we can to support content creators and independent media, give them an independent voice even when sometimes they say things that we'd rather they didn't.
You brought up that criticism is important. Have you noticed that in some ways criticism is maybe not as pointed as it used to be, or has it softened?
I think it is pointed, but I think a lot of the criticism tends to come from people that are anonymous, which is why, you can go look at my Reddit history. If, when I talk on something, I've long tried to just not have any anonymous voice, and I think it's made me a better person. It's made me a better person online, because I think, hey, if I'm going to say this, am I prepared to back that? So I think there's a lot of really pointed criticism that come through, but I think that a lot of that criticism doesn't necessarily have to be backed up at all. If you think about Steam reviews, that's a bit of a problem sometimes. It can be very hard, even as a person buying a video game. I don't really know sometimes if that feedback is valid. Whereas you think about traditional journalism, journalists had to consider journalism ethics, and they could get sued and stuff like that. So I do worry that it's very easy to say something now and not have to back it up, and I don't think that helps people in general.
Yeah, you would rather see people be able to say something, back it up, and have evidence, and go through the traditional process.
Yeah, think about me saying this stuff about Unity. I should then have to, which I did, provide you the raw actual things and stuff like that. Imagine if that wasn't a process that was in here. Someone could quite easily have come in and made up something on Reddit and got all this traction. So I can definitely see, and that's a big problem for an organization's like Unity perspective. Imagine if they're trying to play whack-a-mole. And I even have, even though I'm quite mad at Unity, I do have some sympathy for the situation. They have to verify that their licenses are correct and stuff like that. So everything is complex and everything has nuances. So I do think that, I worry for the landscape of journalism in general, definitely with video games. For me to be able to do my job long term, I need to know that there's a check and balance there in the community and journalism and stuff like that, for sure.
Dean, I know you said you had a 9:30. Do I need to let you go soon?
I think so. But yeah, happy to talk again. I'll definitely want to quiz you. I feel like you should put a little mix of some other games in there, maybe some RimWorld or something like that, something a bit more edgy.
Yeah, I'll try and get a few more in there. It's tough being a dad and having the many responsibilities you do as a father.
There's a really cool game I played recently called Shadows of Doubt, where you play a detective. Very cool game. Strong recommend from me to try out.
I have a few coming up next week that are of the lesser known variety, so maybe that'll make you happy. All right, Dean, thank you so much. I know you got to run. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason. See ya.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Please consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that bell. I do really, really appreciate all your support for the work that I've been doing over here, especially to the patrons. A big thank you. Chris Freddy, Phil Aroni, Spingetter, and Aries EMS have been supporting at the top level. But all of these other wonderful people also choose to support the work that I'm doing. You can support over on patreon.com/SafeStatePlus, or you can become a YouTube member, or just like the video, share it, and spread the word about the work that I'm doing. I do appreciate that very much. Before I go, if you want to check out an unboxing of a little indie game collector's edition I was sent, here's the Tainted Grail collector's edition unboxing you can take a peek at. I did not expect it to be that cool, but that's it for this one. I'll see you next time. Bye for now, everybody.